Imagine an America where people can no longer afford to buy homes, where cities once synonymous with the American dream become overrun with homelessness and housing prices continue to skyrocket. You might think this is just a grim scenario for the distant future, but in reality it could happen in the coming years. Some US states are already on the brink of rapid collapse. We're witnessing a devastating combination of high inflation, an out-of-control real estate market, and relentlessly rising unemployment, so which states will bear the brunt when this combination erupts? Let's explore the 10 US states most at risk of collapsing quickly as housing prices soar and workers become homeless. Are you living in one of them? Number 1. California. If any US state is facing a severe economic collapse due to skyrocketing housing prices, it's California. Not only is this state renowned for having the largest economy in the US, but it's also grappling with an unprecedented real estate storm, with median home prices in major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco exceeding $700,000. Many residents, particularly low-income families, are struggling to find stable housing. The relentless rise in property costs is only making matters worse. California has become a promised land for real estate investors, but a disaster for workers and the poor. According to a report from the California Real Estate Development Council, the median home price has surged by 40% in just 3 years, leaving millions unable to afford even basic housing. Even for those with middle-class incomes, buying a home is nearly impossible. Where does this lead? The consequences of these runaway housing costs go beyond preventing the poor from homeownership. The skyrocketing homelessness rate has become a pressing issue in California. Data from the California Homeless Council indicates that the state currently has around 160,000 homeless individuals, a staggering figure with a 7% increase in just 1 year. Areas like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego are increasingly turning into dead zones, with thousands of people without shelter, living in makeshift tents on sidewalks, under bridges, or directly on the streets. At the same time, inflation and the high cost of living are driving California's unemployment rate higher. In 2024, the state's unemployment rate hit 9.6%, and projections suggest it will continue to rise in the coming years if conditions don't improve. This trend is pushing residents deeper into poverty, unable to secure stable jobs while living costs soar, with housing prices relentlessly climbing and ongoing issues like housing shortages. California faces a grim future. Can the state's residents overcome this challenge? As many workers struggle to earn enough to cover basic expenses, some even resorting to living on the streets, California risks becoming a heartbreaking example of the devastation caused by an uncontrolled real estate market. The question remains, what can California do to halt this decline when current policies seem incapable of salvaging the situation? Number 2. New York. When you think of New York, images of skyscrapers, prosperity, and the world's financial hub come to mind. Yet beneath this glamorous facade, the state is grappling with a severe, often overlooked problem: the rapid collapse of the housing market and its devastating impact on workers. New York faces an enormous challenge with soaring home prices and a dire housing shortage. According to data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the median home price in New York has climbed to over $650,000 in the past year and could continue to rise if left unchecked. This means a large portion of the working population can no longer afford housing, whether in suburban areas or even city centers. The consequences of this uncontrolled price surge go beyond preventing people from buying homes. It's fueling a growing wave of homelessness, particularly in New York City. The city has seen an 8% increase in homelessness in just the past 12 months, according to a report from the New York City Department of Housing Development. This paints a heartbreaking reality. The bustling streets of Manhattan are becoming unrecognizable, with more homeless individuals appearing daily, compounding the issue. New York's unemployment rate is also rising, worsening the situation. Despite being one of the states with the largest economies in the U.S., the unemployment rate has neared 7% over the past year, per the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. With the high cost of living and exorbitant expenses, millions of workers here face job scarcity and struggle to afford basic necessities. The concern is that without bold measures to regulate the real estate market, this situation could rapidly deteriorate. If home prices remain uncontrolled and no targeted support is provided for workers, some areas of New York could become dead zones, with skyrocketing homelessness and unemployment rates, while working-class residents lose access to housing. With these factors converging, New York risks becoming a symbol of an out-of-control real estate market. It's a warning that without immediate action, the state will not only face the collapse of traditional industries, but also witness millions of workers plunging into poverty and homelessness. Will New York maintain its image as the city that never sleeps, or will it face a terrifying economic decline? As housing prices soar and solutions for residents remain elusive, the answer may not be optimistic. Number 3. Texas. For years, Texas has been hailed as a haven for American workers, a place with lower than average living costs, accessible housing, and abundant job opportunities. But now what was once a beacon of hope is turning into a real estate bubble that could burst at any moment. If it does, the consequences for millions of residents would be nothing short of an economic nightmare. According to data from the Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center, home prices in Texas have surged nearly 40% in just 3 years, with Austin and Dallas among the hottest markets in the country. Austin, once an ideal city for tech workers and young professionals, now has a median home price of $540,000, nearly 3 times the median income of residents. As mortgage interest rates rise, tens of thousands of working-class families are forced to abandon their dreams of home ownership. Worse still, a wave of migrants from states like California and New York flocking to Texas to escape taxes and seek a cheaper lifestyle has inadvertently inflated the housing market to irrational levels. Investors snapping up properties en masse have driven prices, sky-high, sidelining local residents whose incomes haven't kept pace. But the problems don't end there. Texas's social safety net is notoriously thin. Unlike California or New York, the state allocates minimal funding to public housing or homelessness programs. Meanwhile, according to the Texas Tribune, homelessness in Austin and Houston has risen over 20% since 2020, with thousands now living in cars, tents, or out in the open under the scorching southern summer heat. If the U.S. economy officially enters a recession, Texas could be among the hardest hit states. Much of its recent growth has rested on fragile foundations. Rapid population growth, real estate speculation, and a blind belief that Texas will always be affordable. Reality is proving otherwise. Mortgage debt is soaring and delinquency rates are spiking. Per TransUnion, the rate of overdue mortgage payments in Texas jumped 37% in the past year, an alarming figure. Should an economic shock hit Texas, could become the epicenter of a wave of personal bankruptcies and a humanitarian disaster with hundreds of thousands pushed into homelessness, a scenario no one ever imagined in this land of opportunity. Texas was once a place to start anew, but now people are asking, start over from where, when even a home has become a luxury? Number 4. Florida. Florida remains for millions of Americans an idyllic destination for retirement, sunshine, and a laid-back coastal lifestyle. But beneath the allure of white sandy beaches and towering condos in Miami or Tampa lies an increasingly grim reality. Florida's working-class residents are being rapidly priced out of the housing market with no way out. Over the past 3 years, Florida has seen some of the fastest home price increases in the U.S., an average of 60% according to Redfin data. Tampa recorded a staggering 70% surge, while Miami has become one of the nation's most expensive housing markets. Yet the median annual income of residents hovers around just $45,000, wildly disproportionate. Florida isn't just a retirement paradise. It's also a goldmine for international real estate investors, particularly from Canada, Russia, and South America. Entire new residential developments are being snapped up by investment funds or foreign individuals, virtually eliminating affordable housing for local residents. Locals can't compete with cash buyers and are forced to rent, but rental prices in Florida have soared 40% in the past 2 years. Per the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. The situation is worsened by natural disasters and climate change. Florida faces relentless hurricanes, rising sea levels, and home insurance costs that have more than doubled in just 18 months, prompting many homeowners to sell at a loss or abandon properties altogether. A report from the Insurance Information Institute reveals that nearly 15% of Florida residents can no longer afford home insurance despite it being a mandatory requirement for mortgages. If the U.S. economy slips into a recession, Florida would be among the hardest hit states, facing a multi-layered crisis: declining tourism, retreating retirees, a frozen housing market, and a working-class population already struggling in the shadows, completely displaced. The state already has over 25,000 homeless individuals, a number projected to double if the market collapses, according to a recent Florida Housing Coalition report. There's no doubt this paradise is teetering. While people still flock to Florida for its sunshine, many families are fleeing, unable to survive the mounting economic storms brewing daily. Number 5. Illinois. It doesn't take a nationwide economic recession for Illinois, and especially Chicago, to quietly slide into crisis. And if the United States officially enters a recession, this state could become one of the most deeply and widely affected across multiple areas. Housing, employment, and the public financial system, Chicago was once a symbol of American industrial strength and labor resilience. But today, inner-city neighborhoods like South Side and West Side are flooded with abandoned homes. Homelessness is on the rise, while suburban home prices have jumped more than 40% between 2020 and 2023, according to data from Illinois Realtors. The paradox is clear. Even though home prices are soaring, the population is shrinking. Illinois has lost over 300,000 residents in just 5 years, mostly young workers and middle-class families leaving Chicago in search of places with more affordable living costs. Meanwhile, property taxes in Illinois are among the highest in the nation, averaging 27% of home value per year, nearly double the national average. For many residents, merely holding onto a home is difficult, let alone buying a new one. And as inflation continues to erode incomes, the risk of mass mortgage defaults and evictions becomes increasingly real. That's not all. The state's financial condition has long been described as a powder keg. Illinois' public pension funds are underfunded by more than $140 billion, according to Pew Research. During past recessions, Illinois was often the first state forced to cut public services, raise taxes, and delay debt payments. If the U.S. economy falls into recession during 2025-2026, Illinois will have almost no fiscal room to intervene. And what will happen to the people? Projections from the Urban Institute show that if the national unemployment rate rises by just 2%, the number of homeless individuals in Chicago could increase by nearly 40% in just 1 year. The city's public housing system has already been overwhelmed for years, while nonprofit organizations are now forced to triage and prioritize only the most urgent cases. Illinois is not just a state losing its people, it's losing its ability to protect those who remain. And in a full-blown recession scenario, this downward spiral could become an unstoppable free fall. Number 6. Nevada. If there's any place in America where glamour could mask an economic collapse, it's Nevada. Beneath the dazzling lights of Las Vegas lies a stark reality. The state's economy is overly reliant on the service, tourism, and gambling industry sectors that are among the most vulnerable during a recession. Unlike states with more diversified economies, Nevada depends on non-essential consumer spending for over 50% of its revenue. That means restaurants, hotels, casinos, and entertainment shows. When a recession hits and consumers cut back on spending, this entire entertainment ecosystem freezes. We've seen this happen during the Great Recession of 2008, and again during the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevada consistently ranked among the states with the highest unemployment rates. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Nevada witnessed an unemployment rate of 28.2% in April 2020, the highest in the nation. But it's not just job losses that place Nevada on the high-risk list for economic collapse. Home prices in Las Vegas soared by 75% within just 3 years starting from 2020. However, unlike financial hubs like New York or San Francisco, where high incomes somewhat keep pace with rising housing costs, wages in Nevada haven't kept up, causing the wealth gap to widen dramatically. According to a 2024 report by Apartment List, over 31% of renters in Las Vegas now spend more than 50% of their income on rent, a dangerously high figure. And if a recession arrives with incomes slashed, thousands of working-class residents, from hotel staff and security guards to restaurant servers, could fall straight into homelessness. The consequences won't end there, since the state budget relies heavily on revenue from service taxes. A collapse in tourism would trigger a public finance crisis. Schools, hospitals, and housing assistance programs could face severe cuts precisely when citizens need them most. Nevada has weathered storms in the past, but the state's current, glamorous yet fragile reality has never been more exposed. A major recession wouldn't just dim the bright lights of Las Vegas. It could reveal the harsh, dusty landscape that has always lurked just beneath the surface. Number 7. Oregon. Oregon has long been seen as a green living paradise, with cities like Portland representing sustainability, freedom, and progressive ideals. Yet behind that idyllic image lies a series of simmering economic and social contradictions, and if America enters a recession, Oregon could be among the first places to feel the shock. First, let's look at the state's labor market structure. Much of Oregon's economy relies on service retail, and especially technology sectors, all highly sensitive to macroeconomic volatility. Intel, the state's largest private employer with over 22,000 workers, began layoffs and a hiring freeze as early as 2023. Should a recession strike, a wave of job cuts could spread across tech companies and their supply chains. Moreover, Oregon is currently grappling with a severe housing crisis. According to data from the U.S., Department of Housing and Urban Development Portland has the third highest rate of unsheltered homelessness in the nation, only behind San Francisco and Los Angeles. Even more alarming, the homelessness rate in the state has surged by over 60% since 2019, while the median home price in Portland has now exceeded $520, 40% higher than in 2020. The widening gap between incomes and living costs is pushing thousands of Oregonians from teachers and nurses to office workers to the brink of society. As the economy slows, the state budget heavily dependent on personal income, taxes will take a major hit, triggering sweeping cuts to public services, especially housing and healthcare assistance programs. A brutal cycle could begin: unemployment, homelessness, rising insecurity, community collapse. Unlike states with strong economic shock absorbers, Oregon is entering a dangerous cycle, with too many breaking points, soaring living costs, tech dependency, and helplessness in the face of skyrocketing homelessness. For tens of thousands of working families in the state, the question is no longer, will there be a collapse, but rather, how much longer can we hold on? Number 8. Washington. At a glance, Washington might seem like a state immune to crisis. Strong GDP growth, low unemployment, and tech giants like Amazon and Microsoft headquartered there. But precisely because of this, Washington is also sitting atop a ticking time bomb, where even a mild recession could blow away the thin veneer of prosperity. The truth is, Washington's economy is overly dependent on technology and e-commerce. Amazon alone employs over 55,000 workers in the Seattle area. Microsoft contributes to over 200,000 direct and indirect jobs. In an economy where high interest rates are strangling consumer demand and tech investment is stalling, these corporations have already begun tightening their belts. In 2023 alone, Amazon laid off more than 27,000 global employees, a significant portion of them based in Washington. But the story doesn't end with job losses. Home prices in Seattle have surged over 50% in just 5 years, pushing the median home price above $800 to $1,000, according to Zillow data. As incomes are slashed, the massive mortgages many residents are struggling to pay could quickly turn into toxic debt. A housing bubble burst in Washington could drag down numerous local banks, many of which are holding billions of dollars in residential and commercial real estate loans. The social consequences are equally dire. A report from King County showed that homelessness in the region rose by 14% in just the past year, with over 14,000 people lacking stable housing. If layoffs continue and rents remain unaffordable, scenes of tent cities sprawling along Seattle's streets will no longer be exceptions, they will become the new norm. Today, Washington may still top the charts as one of the best places to live, but if the U.S. economy truly slides into recession, the state's chilling fragility will be laid bare as the tech dream transforms into a nightmare of homelessness and social unrest. A steep price to pay for an illusion of prosperity that lasted too long. Number 9. Colorado. Colorado was once praised as the perfect balance between economic growth and quality of life, a state with a strong population boom, high median wages, and a dreamlike natural environment. But that very allure is now pushing Colorado to the brink of a housing crisis and income inequality, a beautiful porcelain vase silently cracking from within. In just 10 years, home prices in Denver, the state's largest city, have more than doubled, rising from a median of $290,000 to over $600,000, according to Redfin data. Alarmingly, income levels haven't kept pace during the same period. Household income rose by only about 30%. This gap has created a disillusioned middle class, those who are educated and employed but still can't afford to own a home. Colorado is also grappling with a rental market meltdown. Vacancy rates at major apartment complexes in Denver have dropped below 5%, while rents have surged by over 40% in just 5 years, making the city one of the most expensive places to live in the western U.S., on par with Seattle or Portland. The consequences: homelessness in Denver has surged by more than 32% between 2022 and 2023, according to data from the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. Particularly troubling is the sharp rise in first-time homelessness, people who had never before experienced homelessness, but were pushed onto the streets by a single financial shock, such as a job loss or a rent hike. Worsening the situation, Colorado's social safety net was never designed to withstand a reverse migration wave, where those who once flocked to the state for opportunity now become an economic burden, straining a system already pressured by high interest rates, a frozen real estate market, and record-high credit card defaults. If the United States falls into recession, Colorado may no longer be the high mountain paradise, but instead a land of abandoned towns. Vacant homes and public parks turned into reluctant shelters. The American dream in Colorado could quietly shatter, not with a loud crash, but with the cold silence of thousands of families losing their homes. Number 10. Arizona. There was a time when Arizona was the dream destination for those seeking a fresh start. Year-round sunshine, low cost of living, and affordable housing. Retirees from California, workers from the Midwest. Recent college graduates all once flocked here, treating Phoenix as a rebirth haven. But that's a story of the past. Today, Arizona is trapped in a paradoxical spiral. A place once seen as a refuge is now becoming the starting point for homelessness. According to data from Redfin, home prices in Phoenix have surged nearly 60% over the past 3 years, far outpacing the growth of per capita income in the state. The median home price has now exceeded $450,000, while the median household income hovers around $72,000, meaning residents must spend over 6 times their annual income just to afford a home. It's an impossible equation for the vast majority of workers, and rental prices offer no relief. Between 2020 and 2023, rents in Arizona rose over 30%, making the state one of the fastest-growing rental markets in the United States, according to Zillow. With mortgage interest rates remaining high, demand for rentals keeps climbing, while supply struggles to catch up, creating a harsh, unforgiving housing market. The cruel irony is that Arizona was once seen as the solution to the housing crisis in expensive states like California. But now Californians are no longer migrating here. Instead, it's Arizona residents themselves who are beginning to flee, unable to shoulder the skyrocketing cost of living. Homelessness is soaring at unprecedented rates. The city of Phoenix has recorded a 46% increase in its homeless population in just 2 years, according to the Maricopa Association of Governments. And it's no longer just individuals living on the streets. More and more, families are residing in their cars, supermarket parking lots, or makeshift camps along highways. Arizona is also being heavily impacted by climate change, drought, and water shortages, all of which are driving up electricity, water, and infrastructure maintenance costs, quietly shifting the burden onto residents. An economy heavily dependent on construction, real estate, and tourism, the 3 sectors most sensitive to recession, makes Arizona a ticking time bomb if America does indeed enter a downturn. If home prices keep soaring while wages stagnate, Arizona will no longer be, or the state of sunshine and opportunity, but rather a place where dreams are scorched dry in the desert sun. No one can predict the future with absolute certainty. The list of 10 states mentioned above is not a definitive statement that our states will collapse. It is a warning if the current economic contradictions are not addressed. If policies continue to neglect the working class, then collapse will only be a matter of time. The question is, are we witnessing the silent unraveling of the American dream? And if even the states that were once destinations of hope are now becoming places people flee from, where will the working people turn for refuge? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Are you living in one of these states? Share your real-life experience because your voice is the clearest truth. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any upcoming content. We need to stay alert before it becomes too late.